Está a funcionar. Ok. Muito boa tarde a todos. Muito obrigada pela vossa presença. Portanto, em nome da nossa Presidente, a professora Ana Paula Martins, muito obrigada a todos por terem vindo a esta apresentação em modo de conferência do projeto Bright, um projeto financiado pelo AIT Health. Tendo em conta que os coordenadores do projeto são da Estónia, eu vou passar para inglês, por forma a eles também perceberem o que é que nós estamos a falar. E, portanto, mais uma vez, muito obrigada a todos. So, good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor to welcome you on this special day for this campus. And on behalf of the chairwoman of the board of directors of our hospital, I declare the Bright Conference opened. And to open up this session, I would like to give the floor to our president. Please, Professor Ana Paula Martins.
Okay, good afternoon to you all. So, Mr. Dean, Howard Dean, from the Faculty of Medicine, University of Lisbon, dear representative of the Lisbon Regional Administration, I think the translation can be like that, I'm not very sure, and the representative of the Pharmaceutical Society. Thank you so much for being with us today. Dear colleagues, invited guests, and ladies and gentlemen. And Evita, sorry, I was forgetting the most important partner here, that are the Patients Association or the Women's Association in this case. So it is my great pleasure to welcome you all here today for launching such an impressive study that we all expect to promote more life and well-being to our women. In fact, the International Bright Project is a huge opportunity to our younger women, to the earlier access to the diagnosis of breast cancer. I won't go through the importance of this consortia under the innovative agenda of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. HEIT Health is in fact a co-sponsor of this significant project and by far one of the great drivers for the support of partnerships for development across borders in Europe and worldwide. So, to that end, I want to express our most deep gratitude to the country partners, Sweden and Estonia, as coordinators of the study, for being with us in the same boat. As we like to say in Portugal, we are a maritime country, as you saw yesterday during the dinner, I'm sure. And we feel that we are actually in the same boat. And together to this very last end. So, having said that, I would like to express also, on behalf of the board, our most infinite gratitude to Professor Luís Costa for being such an innovative leader in medical practice and in research that give us all here in this campus not only a sense of pride, but importantly, most, the perspective of the people we serve. As a clinician, Luís Costa put always the patients first, and I acknowledge how important this is when we are sit at the top level management of an academic hospital where innovation of all kinds is the main driver for good clinical practice as also a dimension of sustainability. But I can't end up without saying how extraordinary was the hard work done by Mafalda Carvalho, the lady that took the floor before me, she was exceptional, taking all the steps for the submission of the Bright. More than I can express in words, we have an incredible team in this hospital, under expansion, we hope, at the innovation unit that he's, shared and commissioned at the CAM level, which is our Center for Medical and Research and Teaching Hospital. So this unit where Mafalda Carvalho is just supporting all the work done there with HEIT Health, enhance the great work that is already been done by the Academical Clinical Research Center led by Luís Costa. And so last but not least, my 5 minutes are gone, we should never forget to greet all the women willing to collaborate in this innovative way to be right with breast cancer risk management. For all them, in the person of Tamara Milagre from Evita, go our last word of enthusiasm and gratitude. With you and for you, we'll always stand up in our mission now and onwards. Thank you so much, and let's go to the conference. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for those kind words. So next up, there's Professor Luís Costa, so the man that everyone has been talking about. Please, Professor Luís, take the stage.
I never heard these words before, so thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the Bright team. Really, you are bright. And thank you for everyone that accepted this invitation. And when they asked me, so are you going to talk what about? I said, let's going to give me a Portuguese perspective. I'm Portuguese, so I can say it's a Portuguese perspective about why I think this project is important and the problem of breast cancer in young women. So, first of all, facts. I hope you can see it, but these are the way Portugal is seen by GlobalCan regarding our numbers, our hard numbers in cancer. And if you look for the red bars comparing with the blue bars are the incidence, the red bars are the mortality. So you say, we are doing very well in breast cancer because the red bar seems smaller compared with the blue bar in comparison with colorectal cancer or lung cancer. I will say not so good. So why these people should die because of a cancer that could be detected earlier? So this is our focus today. We want to contribute to avoid this red bar. How can we do it? Okay. I'm a professor also. My director is here, so I have always to use a slide that I use for the students and for myself, okay? This is the natural history of cancer and breast cancer. Starts on the left, goes to the right. It takes years. It turns out that on the right, you cannot cure them. You can maybe spend their life for right now, maybe medium time of 5 years. But you cannot cure them. On the left side, you can cure them if you detect earlier enough. And you can cure them if it is even with risk for spreading the cancer, but you can help the surgeons, because the surgeons are the key persons here, but help the surgeons with more treatments, the adjuvant therapy, to cure more women. So everything that we can do that is curable really stays on the first two rectangles. Early detection, good treatment at the beginning. After that, of course, we take care of the ladies, but it's a problem. Okay. I will say a message at the very end because I remember today a specific situation regarding what I just said. Okay. Okay. This is so true that you look to the statisticals in the United States here. Look for the curves on early stage on the left. Look for the curves on the metastatic stage on the right. Always going down on the right. Some of them you can lose on the left, but you can't promise cure for many of them. We would like to have on the left all the curves nearby 100%. For that, as soon as we can detect the cancer, the better. This is one big problem against cancer. Big cancers are much more smarter than we are. Someone said one day that a dumb cancer is more smart than 10 smart oncologists. Okay? So it's difficult to tackle big cancers. So detect earlier is really crucial with the knowledge that we have in our days. So it's very important. I think I gave you the message, and I give you I can prove the solution. This is a slide that the first person that I guided as a PhD was Inês Vaz Luís, that she presented on her PhD thesis. And I usually like to use this slide because it's really representative of what I just said. Look to the incidence of early stage of cancer that you can increase since you start the screening of mammography. And you see that the decrease on mortality that happens, that is the only cancer that we could decrease mortality by 30% on the last 20 to 30 years. But you still have 16% of them dying. So the question is not solved. And why it's not solved, one of the reasons could be that many guidelines recommended starting breast cancer screening from 50 years of age ongoing. Because most of the cancers happens over there. But however, as we say here, the current one-size-fits-all policy to start screening of all women from a certain age may not be fair, equitable, or even optimal. So I have a Portuguese slide for you, okay? A Portuguese slide is, you go for the guidelines of DGS, so our National Agency for Health, and it tells you that screening should start at 50 and ends at 69, which is okay, more or less recommended as many other countries. But when you're going to look for the National Registration of Cancer, and I presented that also on the Portuguese League Against Cancer when they are commemorating the 25 years of screening, is that you realize that in 2018, not far away, 2018, new cases of breast cancer that appears on the national registration is 7,373. These are registered. We have more cases. And you look for how many cases below 50, 1,800, 1,800 families not protected by screening. And indeed, you have more than 2,000 cases above 70 years of age. So I would say that half of the new cases are not covered by the actual program, the radar of the screening program. So here today you are to speak about the project for the below 50. Of course, we need a project also for above 70, but we need for below 50. And we have to say that Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro has been the main stone for the screening of breast cancer in Portugal with their programs. Evita has been working a lot because they are worried the people who carry the monogenic variants, the monogenic such as BRCA. Everybody knows about BRCA because of Angelina Jolie, okay? But they are worried about that, and this is true, is important, but that represents about the most 10% of all cases of breast cancer in young women. We still have all the other cases to solve, so we need more science to solve this problem. And indeed, last week, if you saw in the newspapers, saying that Portugal is going to change the screening to start at 45 and finish at 74. Makes all sense. We will cover more people. Even so, there are people before 45. Now, this was the picture of the newspaper last week. You see a mammogram? Now, try to memorize the image of this mammogram because I'm going to present again. Not to ask a question, but I'm going to present again, okay? Okay, very recently, just last week, just happened on JAMA also. Attention regarding the screening in the United States. Just saying that the screening as it is right now in the United States does not cover many of the women, particularly the young women. And just one busy slide. If you look on the left, on the top on the left, the first image is for the black woman in the United States. And it turns that the breast cancer appears much more earlier on that group of women. So the conclusion of this is just a recent study, okay? It's just saying that we have to change our mentality regarding screening. There's not one size fits all. We have to change it. Okay? So let's go again to the slide that I presented before. And let's gonna try to preemptive analyze some of the arguments for people not doing screening in earlier stage. Because they say you can find maybe lesions that will never develop cancer, such as the ductal in-situ-carcinoma. Ductal in-situ-carcinoma, the basal membrane is intact, is not disrupted. And that's why it cannot metastasize. But roughly 25% of these lesions will convert to invasive. Invasive means they can kill the woman. We need more science to understand which are the cases that will really turn invasive or not. Until there, all these situations need to be solved, because we cannot promise that that will not going to happen. And that's why, for a long time, people has been discussing this matter. Don't say you are doing too much surgery just because of a pre-neoplastic lesion that will not evolve to invasive cancer. I would say in my argument, do you want to lose the 30% of increase in cure rate because of this argument? I don't think so. We need more science to understand which are the cases that we can believe that will not become invasive or something like that. So until there, we need to be near to the patients, near to the citizens, and protect them. Okay, so this is one slide that I took from NIM, and from one of the slides, it's just the only one that I took from you, okay? And I like very much this slide because it tells you why that happens in some women in young age and others do not. We do not know in most of the cases. It's just genetic determined, is environmental determined. We need to discover more about that. So you can imagine that two ladies, maybe the situation can be different. Now, I'm authorized to use this picture, okay? Because of the woman that you can see with her husband on your left, that she died 1 year ago. I became very much touched by the question of breast cancer in a young woman. She asked me on the 7th floor, she was participating in a clinical trial, why that happened to me? What did I wrong? Where were the screening programs? Why my family, my kids are not going to see their mother anymore? Why? And I couldn't have an answer for that. And it turns out that more or less on the same week, a colleague of mine that worked for many years in MD Anderson was asking me, Luis, on the last 5 years of my career, I want to do something different. He said, what are you going to do? And I said, why don't we start to work more on breast cancer in young women? Because this is, it's maybe 5%, 6% of all women with breast cancer, but this is a disaster. We need to discover more about on research, on awareness, what to do, on politics, what to do. So we create this foundation that now is 11 countries, and the logo of Cancro is here because it's officially, Cancro was signed as a part of this foundation last year. So right now involves Japan, India, Mexico, United States, many other countries. And I can tell you that for instance, one of our advisors is Aaron on the top. On the middle, on the top is a Nobel laureate that he discovers the ubiquitin proteins, okay? And you have ladies all over the world trying to be involved with us, creating what? Awareness, knowledge, providing funding for research, specifically on breast cancer below 40. And we have here very important people such as the president of JCAM with Miguel Martin. So we have already 2 papers. One paper was a statement on the below. We have a paper on the first one in the bottom. And the second one, we try to look for databases of women with breast cancer, young breast cancer. Okay, and just only one thing that probably you may be aware about is that incidence of breast cancer below 40 varies very much between countries. Why that is happening? Because there is no existence with physicians. We do not know. We need to understand that. But you can see it's a huge variation. In Portugal, it's more or less 5.8% below 40 years of age, which is a lot, in my opinion, okay? And one of the statements that we did is that we need to tackle all these possible hypotheses. And one of them, we want to compare the tumors in young women below 40 with the breast in young women before 40 and normal breast in women without cancer. And it turns out that we discover that the breasts in humans with cancer are different breasts from the breasts of women without cancer. And the genes that you can see in the breasts of women with breast cancer do correlate with the survival of that cancer, which is amazing. And some of these genes can explain the image that you can see here, dense breasts, a lot of collagen. Dense breasts is one reason for a risk for breast cancer and the risk for not detecting earlier a breast cancer. So we need to put, this is a piece of information, more piece of information like this one to see, okay, what should we do now to provide better prognosis for these patients and to discover earlier this case. And among the other factors, we put here polygenic risk factor. Polygenic risk factor, this is BRIGHT. And so I did all this conversation to introduce BRIGHT, okay? And so right now, I'm not going to present the BRIGHT protocol because that will be presented by with the following speakers. But just to let you know that what we want here is using a test that is already certified in Europe that tackles the polygenic risk, and we try to identify among healthy women. We're going to receive about 750 to 1,000 healthy women. We'll do this test. We'll do the clinical exam. We'll do a breast exam, and we will provide a letter for them with the result of this test and a letter of recommendation for the physician. So we hope this could be a part of the puzzle that can help. And now I have to say that what is important here is the team. My father, you look beautiful here, always. I mean, I asked the picture of you, all of them were very beautiful. I said, oh, what can I do? Fantastic, young people, they are, so we have surgeons, medical oncologists, we have radiologists. I could not have the picture of all of them, but it's very important that the nurses will be involved in this project. The nurses will be involved on the consultation of the patients, on the collection of a swab test for the gene test that will be performed in Estonia, and all that can be explained because we can have then in another moment another meeting where we can tell you step by step what we're going to do. But this will be available in our internet. There's no big problem, and even how to access to this program, because this will be freely for women without breast cancer history between 35 years of age and 50, okay? This will be 49. So this will be accessible to all of them. And having said that, I think I am not going over the 20 minutes. Just to say a big thanks to the team. I start with the team because, you know, my father asked me, do you want to embrace this project? And you know, now you understand why I embraced the project. I was in the mood of the breast cancer in young woman. I was touched by that. Let's gonna move forward. Let's gonna involve the citizens. Let's gonna involve Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro, Evita, and all the other partners. Let's gonna tell the people I wanted to put a little piece on the puzzle to help the young women not having a terrible disease that can kill her personally, and the family can be devastated because of that. So I think we are happy to be here. I think this is a bright idea, and this is a bright project. Let's gonna see what's gonna happen in the future. We'll be here for the next 1 year to finalize that. And having said that, thank you so much for your attention.
So thank you so much, Professor Luis. Now that everyone knows a little bit more about the project, I would like to welcome Dr. Peter Patrick. Did I say it right? Yeah. He's the CEO of Antigenes, the company responsible for the polygenic risk score genetic test that we are going to apply during our project. Welcome.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, guests, my professional background is actually not business or CEO, but actually I'm a medical oncologist, and I have treated breast cancer patients 30 years now. But now during Estonian biobank-based activities, I have moved mostly into so-called precision screening of breast cancer, which from other side also improves therapy, treatment results. I give an overview about how we developed this polygenic risk score test and brought this into clinical use. As Professor Luis Costa already told, we know that breast cancer is still the very serious health problem in the world, most common cancer among women. And we know that early detection actually saves lives. If we see survival rates in cases which are detected early and which are detected late, then we can see significant differences. But at the same time, data shows also that approximately half of breast cancer cases are not detected at early stages still. And we have currently such a standard screening model where all women from age 50 in most countries are invited for one-size-fits-all screening. But then we have also data that among them screening reduces breast cancer mortality 20 to 40%. But same time, mammography has also own harms and screening has costs. And it's not reasonable to screen all, same way, all younger women. In the future, probably this age group 50 to 75 should be stratified according to risk levels also, but this is work in progress. And therefore, such one-size-fits-all screening for all younger women is not feasible. But if we look for data about incidence of breast cancer in age groups, then principally we see similar picture everywhere. As in Portugal, approximately 20% of breast cancer cases are among women younger than 50. Here's data from Germany and also data about the United Kingdom, about Estonia. All is quite similar. So we know that prevention and early detection is very good solution against cancer, but we can conclude that current screening programs, they consider only age of women, and therefore they are not precise because simply risks for cancer are very different. And solution and vision for many years already is so-called personalized risk-based screening. And I think in case of breast cancer, there is quite a strong international scientific consensus that actually breast cancer screening should be done according to individual risk levels. But from other side, we need easily implementable tools to evaluate risks. And in case of many cancers, genetic predisposition is one very important component in risks. And data also shows that approximately 1/3 of risks is connected with hereditary predisposition for breast cancer. Now, historically, not historically, but already many years, quite common standard practice is testing of so-called monogenic pathogenic variants, like most well-known variants in genes BRCA1 and BRCA2. And this is quite broadly implemented standard of care in healthcare, testing of breast cancer patients already, and also individuals who have family history for breast or ovarian cancer. But from other side, these variants are relatively rare in population. And now, in previous decade, research showed that quite important proportion of genetic predisposition comes from very common variants called single nucleotide polymorphisms, which are common and which influence risk for many diseases, but each of them gives very small impact. But if to summarize them together, then we will start to see significant differences between risk levels. And that is polygenic risk score technology, which calculates total effect of up to hundreds to thousands to sometimes to millions of SNPs into single risk score. And our data in Estonia show that approximately 2% of women in population are carriers of monogenic pathogenic variants. But same time, in addition to that, approximately 20% of women have moderately to highly elevated breast cancer risk level using polygenic risk score evaluations. And also research which analyzes different risk factors have concluded that actually for such risk-based screening and prevention, polygenic risk score is such strongest independent risk component which is necessary to consider. We had in Estonia national pilot project where we started to bring this polygenic risk score information into clinical use based on Estonian biobank data. But same time, quite same time, in Europe came into force so-called in vitro medical device regulation, which says that genetic tests must be in the future in Europe in vitro medical devices with CE marking, principally quite similar system like in case of drugs. They should be registered and so on, simply to better to guarantee quality of different tests. And same time then I thought that if we believe in this technology, then actually we should move on from a research project and we must bring these tests into use as healthcare services. And therefore we founded a spin-off company from University of Tartu, Antegenes. Ante is before in Latin and genes as genes, so genetic information before diseases, with the aim to bring polygenic risk score technology into use according to healthcare principles and European regulations. And now we have on the market actually 4 tests. In BRIGHT project context, we speak about breast cancer test Ante-PC, which is CE marked in vitro device level polygenic risk score test for clinical use. And what is important that our aim has been to bring these tests into use according to healthcare regulations and logics. So on clinical grade level, not as such tests like 23andMe and so on, which is more educational and non-usable in healthcare. For that, we actually analyzed all published available polygenic risk scores using UK Biobank and Estonian Biobank data. And actually these validation datasets were quite large. And we chose the best performing score, which in our case included 2,803 SNPs. And which has such best performance numbers, and we then developed that with further logistics and software developments into genetic test. So this is the publication which is the basis for our breast cancer test. This data come from very large genome-wide association studies. And currently, if we look risk estimations, then this green line is average risk in population, and we see that actually we can stratify very different risk levels. Low risk level, moderately and quite strongly high risk levels. One problem what has also brought into attention using polygenic risk score is the performance in different ethnic groups, because genome-wide association studies, they are conducted mainly in populations with European origin. And to solve that problem, we have analyzed UK Biobank data with different ethnic groups. So, and we do relevant adjustments. Every time if we do test, then we ask about ethnic backgrounds. Currently we have 5 groups: European, African, East Asian, South Asian, and mixed, because we had such data in UK Biobank. Regarding different populations, then our current studies show that actually we have validations in Estonia, UK, and recently also from Norwegian data, and they perform quite the same everywhere. Now, risk estimations themselves is not enough to implement in healthcare, but we must give individuals to women exact recommendations what to do in case of different risk levels. And in the world there are no very clear, this is very innovative field, and there are no guidelines actually. And what we have used is the logic that there is consensus in scientific societies and in societies in general that average risk level at age 50 is good enough to start screening. This is common recommendation. And then from one side, if we see a similar risk level as is average in same population at age 50 in younger women, then we can recommend for them to start screening earlier. This is one principle. And this is also a question of equivalence and equitability actually. So, because if we think that some women who are over 50 receive mammography screening currently, then why those younger women who have actually higher risk level, why those not are receiving mammography screening? And another principle is also comparison with moderate risk monogenic pathogenic variants like CHEK2 and ATM and PART1. BRCA1 and BRCA2 and PALP2 are very strong pathogenic variants, and they significantly evaluate such higher risk. But polygenic risk score higher risk estimations are on the same level with moderate risk monogenic variants. And there are already international and national guidelines how to manage these moderate risk monogenic variants. And so we can principally conclude that if we detect similar risk level using polygenic risk scores, then we can give similar recommendations. Our current recommendations also in the BRIGHT project are if we have average or lower risk, then we recommend to continue standard screening approach. But if we have moderately higher risk, then we recommend to start screening from age when risk is same as average at age 50. And if risk is significantly higher, let's say 2 times higher than on average at age 50, then we recommend more frequent mammography, not after every 2 years, but every year, because it's same risk level as and similarity as with moderate risk monogenic variants. And according to them also, if risk level is more than 3 times higher, then we recommend also include magnet resonance imaging for screening. But for example, UK, NICE, they have in the United Kingdom context different risk levels. Because NICE has already many years ago defined what is average risk level, moderately and high risk in UK population. And our tests are also in use in UK, and actually our data show that actually 20% of women have moderately to highly increased risk, and they should do mammography screening differently from early age than is current standard of care. So actually it's quite similar as we saw in Estonia. Approximately 20% of women have a higher risk level. And we have also this clinical report where we give information about polygenic risk score number. It's separately, this is not does not give actually information for individual, but we must put this into context in comparison with other women in same population, in same age. And so therefore we give also 10-year risks in comparison with average at same age, at same population. And also we give guidelines for health behavior and body awareness, and also about other risk factors. So now if you think where to use polygenic risk score in clinic scenarios, then we see that definitely one target groups are those women who have family history, who go for consultations, and who are negative for monogenic carriers. Then if we miss polygenic risk score information, then we miss quite important component. Another such scenario, such clinical services where precision prevention is implemented outside of public screening programs. And third level is then public screening programs. And in BRIGHT project, we are currently implementing this precision breast cancer screening where our main target group are women in age 35 to 49. We are doing for them polygenic risk score test, and also for some women monogenic test. And principally looking for this schema, we get such picture where we are not recommended currently de-escalation of screening for women over 50. We recommend same level because we feel that we need randomized study data to reduce or de-escalate screening. But we can detect higher risk younger women and include them into screening. And in Estonia, our public health insurance fund who organizes screening, they already accept polygenic risk score test results as indication to start screening at earlier age. As this field is new, then American College of Medical Genetics and Genomics published in March this year clinical statements about the use of polygenic risk scores. And we are happy to say that actually our activities are almost in full accordance with their statements. And one of them is what is important, and what we have also considered is that that we cannot do polygenic risk score testing isolated from monogenic tests. And our data in Estonia showed that actually, at least with current prices, it's not cost efficient to test all women for monogenic variants also, but we are doing that using national criteria for monogenic testing, which is standard of care anyway. And it's necessary to implement in more organized way within projects. And similar guidelines are in Portugal, and indications for monogenic testing plus then polygenic risk score tests. So from one side we have tests and the market and clinical use, but same time it's important to develop organizations' ways how to implement that in healthcare, like implementation research, and therefore we have our such biggest project, this BRIGHT project we are talking today. We have also one similar project in Norway ongoing. And for the end, I would like to say that in addition to breast cancer test, we have similar tests for prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, and skin melanoma. And principally, again, the aim is not to evaluate risk levels, but the aim is to give personalized recommendations for precision prevention, implement clinical precision prevention programs, and reduce cancer mortality and morbidity. And actually, this testing is quite simple. We have such a DNA collection kit. It's possible to use as to do test in hospital, but also it's quite easy to do as home-based testing. So we are using buccal swab and then prepaid envelope to send a DNA sample back to our lab. And yes, it's in clinical use. But thank you very much for your attention, and this was the overview from my side.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you. So now that everyone knows what is happening, we're moving on to the how. And so for that, I would like to welcome Professor Neem Tonneson. He's the activity leader and basically the principal investigator of the clinical study of the BRIGHT project. So Professor Neem, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mafalda. Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear partners of our BRIGHT activity. As activity leader, I'm really proud to present our initiative here in Lisbon. And I cannot perhaps express my gratitude enough for your team taking part in this, and I know how difficult it is actually to change any clinical routine, and especially if you try to implement some practice which has been introduced in some other country, take it here, go through all the bureaucracy here. I really admire your efforts here, and thanks a lot, Professor Luis Costa, for doing this. We may have redundant messages here, and just trying to add a few words. Whatever country we are talking about, there is a problem with breast cancer under 50. And even if part of this is covered by hereditary cancer testing, in most of cases we are unable to find the monogenic factor, and perhaps part of this could be covered by polygenic risks. So we all understand that we should move to stratified cancer screening, but actually going to this, it's not perhaps a very easy, straightforward way, and I think the more we can introduce it's important to take the first steps, and if we are able to introduce it in one cancer, then it's more easy to follow with other screen cancers such as prostate or colorectal cancer as well, which all have a significant genetic component as well. There are several expectations from all those stratified screening programs. And of course, it's important to take into account all this research evidence, but we should give something for all the stakeholders here, something to patients, something to society, something for some value to healthcare providers. And the tests must be effective, cost-effective, feasible, acceptable, and equitably accessible. What I wanted to state here with the genetic background of breast cancer is that there are currently no tests that cover uniformly the monogenic factors and the polygenic background. So you need to understand the limitations of both sides. You need to understand who should be tested, what exactly is the test that you're doing in the patient, and the patient should understand it as well. And we see it quite often that of course, people going to monogenic testing, they hardly have heard anything about the polygenic background, and it might be also that people who don't read the information leaflets or don't go to counseling by doing the polygenic risk score testing, they don't understand that it doesn't actually cover the high-risk monogenic variants. And as stated also in this ACMG paper, both of these sites should be taken into consideration, and even if our project is primarily aimed on introducing the polygenic risk score, we have also seen that it has improved and shown the need for a broader testing of monogenic risk factors as well, because the participants most eager to join those studies, they are these with some familial background. The risk levels from monogenic background are quite well described. We have also models for polygenic risk score. Actually, in the future, probably they will be combined, at least for increasing the significance of the moderate risk genes, perhaps based on high polygenic background. What we see indeed that there is a great need for introducing the PRS testing, and also the monogenic part needs to be reconsidered. I'm showing also some data, taking the chance to show the data from Estonian Biobank. We often think that we should test monogenic factors only in cases under 50. And here, based on our data, if we look at the first appearance of the diagnosis of breast cancer, the median for BRCA1 and 2 carriers is close to 50, and in case of CHEK2, it's above 50. So I think we should always consider in any breast cancer patient whether they should be tested for hereditary factor as well. So here are perhaps the key considerations and key options for breast cancer genetic testing. So MPV testing has been classically based on stringent clinical criteria. The PRS is probably a testing that could be done on any healthy women, just to stratify, just to estimate the risk levels and do something differently in breast cancer future screening. MPV testing, if they are found always includes counseling of family members. PRS testing doesn't have any implications for the family members. We have introduced in current project the MPV testing based on patient field or participant field questionnaires. And we are also trying to search the genotyping datasets for most common MPVs, which has been also the experience from our biobank, is that also the arrays are able to target some of the most common variants. Unfortunately, the MPV testing is much more expensive per tests and less people are found. So perhaps 1 to 2% in population if we do unselected testing. In case of PRS testing, probably at least 20% of women could undergo some different routine in their screening. So coming to the BRIGHT project, which was initiated already a year ago, and it has different, it's supported by EIT Health, and we are extremely grateful for this. It has several work packages. We are continuing with IVDR compliance. We are running clinical pilots in 3 countries. We have business and markets related work package. We do stringent cost effectiveness analysis, and of course there are related dissemination activities. I'm happy to present also a few consortium partners in this aula magna of the medical faculty. So for example, from healthcare, from dissemination partners, we have here Filippa Sampaio from Uppsala region, and they are doing the cost effectiveness analysis. And we have Kelly Harkin from IESA, and they are doing the market analysis. So I'm active in Estonian Biobank and also in Tartu University Hospital. And we have engaged Tervisekassa is the health insurance fund from Estonia, and they are participating for the implementation in public screening purposes. So coming to those clinical feasibility studies, we plan to engage 750 to 1,000 women in 3 countries. In Estonia, we already engaged 800. In Uppsala, already 1,000 have signed up for the study, and the Portuguese study is just taking off. It's a prospective non-randomized cohort study, and the primary aim is to evaluate the impact of population-based genetic testing strategy using this PRS, polygenic risk score, and complementary MPV testing. We are using then the participant field questionnaire for referral to genetic counseling, and we are aiming to screen the genotyping data also for the most common MPVs to improve the coverage of genetic risk factors. And I'm showing also the initial results from Estonian arm. We used different recruitment channels, including pharmacies, then the digital channel, online channel from Antigenes, the hospital, and also family practitioners. And from those, as I've said, some 80% were referred to genetic counseling, which is almost double of that we expected. So maybe if it's implemented in broader scale, eventually there is not so high demand for also genetic counseling. But on the other hand, maybe we need to expand the genetic testing for MPVs significantly. The important thing is that 15% of participants received the recommendation to start mammography screening soon. And I'm also showing you the estimated risk levels by Folstein and also according to these UK NICE risk groups here. And of course, we are still collecting the clinical data. I cannot yet present the data from clinical genetics counseling because some of participants are still coming to the first visits. We are still working on the family members, so it's somewhere in the mid of the process. So perhaps early summer we have some results we could share with you. A very, very important part of the project is also cost-effectiveness study, and of course we have already agreed several scenarios how to proceed, how the future process would look like, and it's going to be represented then in the difference of healthcare costs versus the achieved effects, and ICER is the term then. So briefly to conclude, the BRIGHT prevention approach, precision prevention approach, is aimed to improve the outcome of breast cancer screening, to provide value for the participants, to provide value for the healthcare providers, and add value to the by better use of public resources by the healthcare systems. We are underway with clinical studies in Lisbon and Uppsala, and completing soon the study in Estonia. And as we get more and more data, we will be releasing it also publicly. So thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you might have.
Thank you very much, Professor Nima. So, as he said quite rightfully, if you have any questions for this part of the session, please feel free to ask. Anyone? Probably not. No questions? Okay, so I believe probably we can move on with the last couple of presentations. So I believe, I don't know, it's Tamara, right? Yeah. So please, Mrs. Tamara from Evita, take the floor.
Thank you. I thought we would have a break, but we don't. So thank you very much for having me and for present to you what we are doing at Evita regarding prevention and research of early onset breast cancer. Not only because we support families affected by any hereditary cancer syndrome, but today we are talking about breast cancer. So how move I forward here on the screen? Okay, I don't know how to do this. Just touch? This is different, yeah, okay, just touch here. Technical problems. What was about time? My screen has a different image, so we try to fix that. So I'm not moving my slides, it's somebody else. Is that right? Okay. Trying to fix it. Okay, I can start here with this, just generally to explain hereditary cancer is, so just move. Okay, okay. now we have it, represents 10% of all cancers, and it's located in multiple organ systems. So when we talk about hereditary breast ovarian cancer syndrome, there are other organs involved. It's not only breast and ovarian cancer. So it's involved in the most frequent cancers, some of the most lethal cancers, and even 10% of childhood cancer is also hereditary origin. It's an autosomal dominant germline mutation. So it depends which copy our father or mother passes down to us. We can be lucky and not inherit the faulty gene, and we can be not so lucky and we have the genetic mutation. So it's 50% chance to get it. And you have a few in novo mutations. This is mostly the case when we have Li-Fraumeni syndrome, childhood cancer. They have sometimes in novo mutations that start with that young child. So what is suspicious? It's a family history, of course. If everybody in the upper generation died of a certain type of cancer in the same line, paternal or maternal line, there is something going on. If the cancer was early onset, so before you expect to get that kind of cancer, a bilateral breast cancer is suspect. If you have more than one primary cancer, so first breast cancer, then you get ovarian cancer. Certain subtypes of cancer, like triple-negative breast cancer before 50, is the indication to do genetic testing. And also multifocal cancer. They often present several tumors from the same original cancer. So our story of Evita is a very typical story, and I'm apologizing to the people that already heard 200 times our story, but other people didn't. So it began with a young pregnant lady I took care of in the recovery room after a mastectomy due to a triple-negative metastasized breast cancer. And I heard about her family history. So 2 paternal aunts had already died of breast cancer in their early 40s. She was proposed for genetic testing back in 2007. Thankfully, she had a very educated doctor, and she was informed regarding genetic mutations and hereditary breast cancer. So she was referred, and it turned out she was BRCA1 positive. And I want to state here, I'm only standing here today in front of you because I was lucky and I found out about my genetic predisposition before I was caught by surprise at an early age with a breast cancer. So when I found out, I could be proactive and I could prevent the cancer. And the promise to this young woman that died 2 years later, leaving 2 little daughters, orphans, and also my gratefulness to be still alive and to have been lucky. That is my mission on our patient organization, saving more lives so this doesn't repeat very often. So we have 2 very different scenarios. We have a previvor, which is me. So I'm here happy, smiling with my 2 beautiful daughters. They are happy too. And then we have this scenario. This is the unlucky mother and her daughter that are worried that she won't survive this early onset, highly aggressive breast cancer. Those are the different scenarios. So cancer is socio-economic burden in any nation. Now, when we talk about breast cancer, it's the most frequent cancer in the world. And if a woman falls apart from the family as a fundamental pillar of the family structure, weakening her strength is absolutely disaster also for the development of the nation and a critical problem for all of us. So in Portugal, we have a Portuguese founder mutation that turns our country into a champion regarding BRCA2 mutation incidence in our country. So we started together with the Portuguese Association of Cancer Research, then President Professor Luis Costa. Thankfully, we organized a national consortium to investigate the behavior of breast cancer in those genetic mutation carriers. And first results are coming out. The other thing is the socio-economical burden of hereditary breast cancer. Of course, it's not very difficult to understand when it's a 27-year-old mother of 2 that dies at 29, that it costs much more, many more time. It's much more cost intensive than a sporadic cancer. Therefore, we are in a national research consortium that investigates and creates evidence on the socio-economical burden of hereditary breast and ovarian cancer. We have also a European Code of Against Cancer, which is lacking the highest risk factor of all, the genetic predisposition. So know your family history of cancer. Not only don't drink, don't smoke, don't eat too much. Know your family history of cancer, it can save your life. Good news, we are also active on European level. This is a European project ongoing. It's called MammoScreen. It's delivering the last proof of concept to be superior than the actual gold standard of mammogram. It's a new medical device that works on the basis of microwave, no radiation, very comfortable. It's super sensitive in dense breast tissue, which doesn't happen with the mammogram. And our community is, of course, very young, so we have syndromes that get breast cancer at 20. When you have a TP53 mutation, you need to start very early your breast cancer screening, and there is not really a very good device nowadays available. We had the highest score possible from the European experts for this project, 15 out of 15, so the expectations are very high, and I'm very optimistic regarding a revolution that is going to start soon. So, what are we dealing now nowadays is globally, early onset breast cancer is the main cause of maternal orphans. So we are talking about, remember my friend, she was 29 when she died. The family was completely destroyed afterwards. So this is something we need to do something about it, yeah? This is not acceptable. Again, the woman is crucial in a family structure. She's the pillar that holds the whole boat together. Are we missing something here? Yeah, we are. Besides quality of care, access to genetic testing and genetic counseling, first of all. Because if you do genetic testing, you need to understand what you are doing. You need to understand what the results may mean for your life and what may be the consequences. We need to improve genetic testing so we treat better young breast cancer women, and we prevent further primary cancers in the patient, and we prevent future cancers in the family members. So when you identify a genetic mutation carrier, you can save the whole family. It's not always only one person. Now, the burning unmet needs in hereditary cancer. No data. Our National Cancer Patient Registry does not discriminate hereditary from sporadic cancer. That means we're not existing. We are all sporadic here in Portugal. Insufficient identification of gene carriers. We lose 50% of hereditary cancer patients because they are never forwarded to genetic testing. It's funny. Waiting times. We have enormous waiting times. Before the pandemic, it was already really bad. After the pandemic, you cannot imagine. Unacceptable. People are dying waiting for their prevention. So asking the wrong questions. When we have a young breast cancer patient, oncologist wants to know, does this woman have a BRCA mutation because I have target therapy on the market that I can use? But then, if the BRCA test comes back negative, there may be other genes involved, and often there's no follow-up on that patient. So she feels safe, but she is not really safe because she may have another gene mutated. There's a lack of information regarding fertility options. When you have a breast cancer patient, a young breast cancer patient, the fertility options need to be on the discussion, of course in early diagnosis. I'm not talking about advanced stages, but that perspective that she still can be a mother in the future is curative. It's very important for the healing also. For the healthy genetic mutation carriers, we have pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, where you can exclude a fetus, embryo, with the respective mutation. I mean, a BRCA1 mutation, you can live with that, but if you have a TP53, you get cancer very early and your whole life long until you die of one of your 5 cancers. So it may worth it to end this mutation in the family. Lack of resources. Our healthcare professionals are working themselves to death, and there is no funding for more workforce and no funding for more and better investigation. So that's really not very intelligent, because we are getting more and more cancer patients, as you know, not only because of age. I mean, younger women breast cancer incidence is also rising dramatically. Something we are missing here, and again, I think it has to do with polygenic risk scores, of course, also, but also with germline mutations that are not identified. And there's a completely lack of genetic literacy. We have medical specialists that do advise their patients not to perform genetic testing, because why do you want to know that? Just live your life. We have those statements every week, yeah? So that is not okay. So you remember our unmet needs. So to get some answers for those unmet needs, to turn the situation better for everybody, we are since 5 years meeting with experts over a patient-centered, patient-led patient registry. So this is a registry where the user is the only owner of the data and the only administrator of the data. Anything that anybody would like to do with the data, there need to be an informed consent signed. And citizen can share anonymized data for investigation. And first of all, it's focused on the citizen. Any citizen worried with its cancer risk it should be anybody, because 1 in 2 will get cancer during the lifetime, can register. Any genetic mutation carrier already identified can register, and also any cancer patient can register. Mainly those that were diagnosed before 50, because again, we lose 50% of the hereditary cancer patients because they are never referred to genetic testing. And that has to do because, yeah, when you have a drug already on the market, it's different. But when you are talking about a syndrome that doesn't have drugs yet, it's not the first worry of the doctor that is taking care of that patient. So we want to increase awareness regarding hereditary cancer. We went to the Health Commission to ask for a national day of hereditary cancer, because it's complex, it's transversal, it's not a normal kind of cancer. It's different in diagnosis, in prevention, in treatment, and survival. I mean, when you get sick at young age and you have to deal with the side effects and the long-term effects, that is really decreasing your quality of life. And we have a risk assessment test you can use if you want to. So you are worried with your cancer risk, you register, and then we ask you, do you want to check if you should have genetic counseling? Those are 9 questions. If you answer to one of them with yes, we advise to have genetic counseling. We can offer that genetic counseling on the platform, and we can decrease dramatically the waiting time for this genetic counseling. We have people that waited over 1 year to have only genetic counseling. I mean, not acceptable. Also, psychologists on the platform. During pandemic lockdown, prevention was completely out of the conversation. And imagine you have a Damocles sword over your head. You have a genetic mutation with super high risk for some type of cancer, and nobody is looking at you because you are not an urgent case. It was really the anxiety levels raised dramatically. So we try to look for a solution for those times too. The user can centralize the whole clinical process on his profile. This is super important because hospital informatics are not interoperable. So there are doctors that work in three different hospitals, so they always have to learn again how to do it and so on. And they cannot even look up so diagnosed in hospital A, surgery in B, treatment in C, and then you have an accident when you are at Algarve in holidays and you have nothing, and you repeat again your analysis and so on. We practice a lot of waste with those doubling and tripling of medical exams. We want to prevent this. And the user can give temporary access to his doctor, so the doctor may know how his patient has spent the time from the last consultation until today, can prepare better the time, because we know the things that doctors and nurses do not have is time to spend with the patients. It's increasing. We have less and less workforce and more patients, so we need to find solutions for that. We can inform regarding clinical trials on European level. We have many women that go to Spain when they have ovarian cancer. For example, we do not have a trial open in Portugal right now. So we will, our risk assessment tool is based on the Portuguese program of National Genetics and Cancer. It was an initiative of the working group of the Portuguese Society of Oncology, working group Hereditary Cancer. And we created this website, cancrohereditario.pt, where you can find very useful information for healthcare professionals and for citizens. And from those criteria where we try to structure and organize the pathway of genetic mutation carriers in Portugal, there we developed our questionnaires from. There are also other tools from ESMO, for example, if we go, because this platform will kick off soon in a pilot version, next month, in fact, in a pilot version only in Portugal, but then very quickly we will translate it into English and we go European-wide or internationally. So we will have a constant data set and we will have a variable data set. We have all those, we can do questionnaires of any kind in any language. We have a specially developed tool to make electronic questionnaires. We can also create templates for proms and prems. I think the BRIGHT project should really consider proms and prems of the participant, because if you are a healthy woman and you have courage enough to do this, to participate in the study, you may have a new knowledge that can frighten you and can increase your anxiety levels. So we can do patient-reported outcomes easily on the platform. With all those women, I think it's super important to observe their psychological condition inside this study. We also plan to have an open access kind of library, so investigators can go there and can look up what questions were already made and can read the answers and can improve their own questions and do better questions. Because if you want to get good results, you should ask the right questions. And therefore, we make this available. Yeah, of course, we will do many studies by ourselves, but we are really happy to integrate any research team. We are involved in several other future proposals already. This is the face of the Evita platform. When you go there, you have 3 different profiles. For the user, who is the king, is the owner of the data, He's the administrator of the data. Then you have one for the healthcare professional that you want to give access, so the healthcare professionals is better informed, and you can even create a communication on that platform with your doctor. There are doctors, they give their mobile phone because they are ready to be in straight contact with some patients that need to be observed closely. And we have the investigator profile, which I told you. The pilot version will kick off with user and healthcare professional, and very quickly afterwards we will also have the investigator ready. So that was our platform project leader, who is Dr. Tatiana Vasilevskaya. She is available to answer any questions, further questions. I give you the email in the end of the presentation. Of course, we are doing not this on the coffee table in a chat. We are really meeting since 5 years with a consulting firm, with the tech firm involved, Prologica, consulting firm Moai was doing the business plan, because the sustainability of such a platform needs to be guaranteed. I mean, we invested way too much time in this project to leave it to die at the beach, as we say in Portugal. This must be, we have a private consortium, mainly big pharma, labs that do diagnostics, and also healthcare insurance, because when you are a patient association and you ask for funding for investigational projects, not really well seen in Portugal. We are talking everywhere, patient-centered and so on, but we are not seeing it. So we needed to do something, because our young women continue to die in 2023. They continue to die, and I'm there with them, and I see their children, and I see their husbands. Why don't we act on something that is perfectly actionable? Why continue we to ignore this kind of hereditary breast cancer? We can definitely prevent it. Again, I'm only standing here because I knew it before I got sick. That's the only reason. Otherwise, there were nothing. So we have a lawyer specialized in data protection also with us, and we are doing our tests on the France platform, CNIL, where we assess the impact on ethics and GDPR. And so data knowledge development value for the system by saving money and, moreover, lives. What's the question here? What's the doubt, right? So we are keen to collaborate with you within the BRIGHT project. And here is the contact of Tatiana. Please reach out to her, because we want to get the good investigation to an excellent investigation. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so now for our last presentation, I would like to welcome Dr. Marta Pojo from the Portuguese League Against Cancer. Thank you very much.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this invitation. It's an honor for me to be here and present my association, Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro. This association is a non-governmental organization founded in 1941 and declared by law of public utility a relevant social aim. The main goal of this association is to fight cancer and support cancer patients and their families. So the organization is divided in 5 regional administrations, 112 support groups over the country, and 279 employees. Importantly, the administration board is 100% voluntary. So the key areas of action of Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro is cancer patient support and their families and caregivers, primary prevention, secondary prevention, and training and research in oncology. So in each key area of action, we provide a lot of service free for patients, and importantly, in secondary prevention, we perform breast cancer screening. Regarding breast cancer screening, in Portugal, the breast cancer screening is performed by different entities: Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro, as I told you before, Associação Oncológica do Algarve, another association that perform in red region, and Regional Health Service of Azores in Azores Islands, and also Regional Health Service of Madeira in Madeira Islands. But importantly, Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro perform breast cancer screening in 8% of national territory. So why Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro performed the cancer screening? In 1985, it starts with a pilot project in central regions. Then in 1990, it was extended to all central regions. In 1997, in south regions, and 1998 in north regions. So by this reason, Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro perform and is responsible for this screening, public screening. However, only in 1921, the entire national territory was covered. So in yellow region, that include more than 400,000 humans, were included in breast cancer screening. So how we perform this screening? By mobile units over the country. We have 90 in north, 10 in center, and 10 in south, because only in 2021 we include Lisbon region and Setúbal region. So we also had red and recall centers in each regions, and actually we have more than 115 employees, administrative and technicians, but also medical doctors. So we have digital mammography and tomosynthesis mammography by breast density needs this type of screening. So I have an example of the operation. So we start for planning. You cover all regions in the south, for instance. Then we invite the population. This population need to be criteria. Actually is the age and the absence of cancer history or genetic risk. Then we make a divulgation, last call, a screening in the local, and a double reading in the center reading. Then the result, if was negative, the woman received a letter. If was positive, woman received the telephone call. And is asked for further diagnosis assessment and could over control 6 or 12 months or for hospital referral. So actually you have a lot of increase in invitation because the yellow area was covered. For this reason, we decreased the participation rate because for the first time we have a low participation. And you can see the participation rate for the first time is low. However, over time, we increase this participation rate. However, the recall rate is low and the hospital referral rate is very, very low. So what you need in the future, the improved participation rate in this area mainly, but also decrease the recall rate. The increased age groups, we will perform the 45 to 50 years and up to 69 years when government set us to perform. Importantly, all this data is share with the health government, because health government give us the contact and phone number and address of human to participate in this screening. We give them the results, and we share all time this program with health governments. Thank you for your attention. I able for discuss if you need.
Thank you so much. That was super quick. Okay, so we've come up to the end of our presentation. So again, I ask if there's anyone with any questions about the project. No. I can just add that the project will very soon be officially launched inside the hospital. So in the first stage, we'll be recruiting our in-house collaborators and workers. And then on the second stage, we'll advance to the public recruitment as well. And so soon, hopefully very soon, there'll be more information on our website and on social media, and also on our info mails as well, with the number and the specific email address as well, that everyone or every woman that wants to volunteer to our project, you can get in touch with us and schedule your appointment. So if there's no further questions, so again, on behalf of our chairwoman, there is one question.
I wanted to do one comment that we are in one end of European Union and Portugal is in other side of European Union. But it's so amazing and good to see that actually we have so common understanding about these problems which we should solve, and also how we should solve these problems. So we are very thankful that all your, not only our Bright team, Professor Luis Costa team in Portugal, but all other stakeholders. I see that we have here such bigger supporters, groups, initiative, patients, organizations, all working in this direction to solve this problem with rightly detection of breast cancer in young women. So we definitely look for further very good cooperation and further success of Bright project here in Portugal. So thank you.
So again, thank you very much on behalf of our chairwoman. Hope you've enjoyed. Oh, okay. So, Dr. Gonçalo? Dr. Louisiana, yes, exactly. And our surgeons as well. All those lovely pictures that Professor Luis had. Yeah, the nurse team, yeah. Actually, one of the first volunteers. So this is it. Thank you. Thank you again, everyone. And hopefully this will be a very successful project. Thank you.